It is becoming more and more likely that we will see our first snow and first snow squall of the season tomorrow afternoon across the Great Lakes region, as well as the potential for some waterspouts that is going to be increasing as that cold front passes through later on tomorrow as well. In this video, I'm going to go over the potential for that snow squall, where places will get snow, as well as the intensity of the snow, as well as that potential for the waterspout setup that we have across the lakes tomorrow. Everybody, the time is 4:27 p.m. and surprisingly it's October 30th. I didn't even think it was. I thought it was earlier than that. But welcome to another update from Great Lakes Weather. Hopefully everybody's doing well. And boy, have things really ramped up in regards to the first winter blast that we are getting across the Great Lakes region tomorrow. Temperatures are going to be in the upper 30s. So again, it's not going to be at that freezing mark, but again, temperatures will drop down into the mid-20s tomorrow night, which is likely going to impact some outdoor plumbing if you have it. So you're definitely going to want to get that water turned off if you have any outdoor plumbing that could be impacted by this. So it is going to get cold across Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, and in fact, it's going to get to the point where it's going to get cold across much of the continental United States. You see the potential for freezing temperatures. All of this dark blue that you see here is freeze warnings that are in effect for the Great Lakes region at this current time. Now you can see Michigan is not in the freeze warning. That's because their freeze warning, their typical time for having freeze warnings issued is over, which means that freeze is likely going to occur across Michigan already. So they're not going to issue any warnings out for the freeze. However, places such as Indiana, Ohio, areas down to the south and southwest are under those freeze warnings, and in portions of Georgia, South Carolina, along the Appalachian areas, and then down into Dixie Alley. You also have the red flag warnings for the potential for fire across portions of southern United States as well. So looking up in parts of the Upper Peninsula, you do see that there's a winter weather advisory for the potential for lake effect snow that is present across parts of that area. The first winter blast definitely is going to bring snow to, I think, much of the Great Lakes region, except for the far southern portions of Indiana and Ohio. I think most places across the Great Lakes will probably see some snow. And some will only see it for a very brief period of time. That brief period of time could be pretty impactful with regards to this low pressure system that's bringing that snow to the region. So let's dive right in with the HRRR model. Again, the HRRR, I'm putting out a little more of a more intense setup that I would expect with this. But again, we're going to run through it. There's already some lake effect snow and some snow falling across parts of northern Michigan, the Upper Peninsula as well. Some places even have a winter storm warning out for potential for a lot of snow. But look right here, you can see low pressure system beginning to wrap around into the Great Lakes region. It's coming out of the north, and it's going to pass right through into parts of northern Michigan. And the southern edge of this is where that cold front's going to be setting up. That cold front's probably going to bring some snow across parts of Indiana and Ohio, and you're going to see that kind of evolve as it goes forward. This is around Tuesday morning. That snow's beginning to move in. It's probably going to be more of a wet snow in nature. Some portions of it might be powdery. Again, temperatures are going to be dropping down into the teens, I'd say, where the snow is expected to grow. Temperatures are going to be in the 30s at the surface, but where that snow is falling within the dendritic growth zone where it's forming, it's probably going to be a relatively cooler or more maybe a bit of a little more powdery than you would expect with heavy wet snow. It's not going to be a heavy wet snow, it looks like, and it's probably not going to stick as much. But again, we do have that setup there for snow between 6,000 feet and 9,000 feet that currently exists. And the lapse rates are going to be getting pretty steep, and that's going to be something to watch out for. As it crosses this lake, you're going to see a lot of lake effect enhancement as it goes over. You can see that the intensity kind of gets up. It begins to kind of show a bit more heavier setup in nature. Across western Michigan, parts of Ottawa County, you see a heavy band of snow setting up. You have your dendritic growth zone between 7,000 and 9,000 feet right here. And you can see those dew points and that temperature is lined up just about perfect right with each other. And the lapse rate is at 7 degrees Celsius per kilometer. Those steepening lapse rates are really going to cause a bit more of an intense snowfall to occur. And it looks like there even could be quite a bit of lift in the atmosphere for these storms, for these snow squalls that could be setting up over Lake Michigan. So you do see that it kind of forms a nice convective line across parts of Indiana and Michigan. And if we pause it right here at about, I'd say 3 p.m. This is at 3 p.m. You have the snow already beginning to move through across portions of Michigan and Indiana. That initial squall. You go to hour 26. Let's actually look at some severe weather dynamics. I'm actually saying we're going to look at some severe weather dynamics because it's coming to play that there could be potential for some thunder snow with this as well. You can see the lapse rates associated with some of this are going to be pretty high up in parts of central Michigan at this time. And the lapse rates are much lower as you get farther down to the south, but that is probably going to change as we go a little bit forward into that time frame. There's actually going to be some instability too. You do see some instability out over the lake of around 100 to 200. Despite the cold temperatures, there's going to be some instability setting up due to that warmer water temperature. Again, the similar setup that we had for the potential for waterspouts that past time. Storm relative listy, even ahead of that front, is going to be present. So there'll be some spin in the atmosphere that will allow for some lift to occur and make this pack a little bit more of a punch with regards to heavier snow activity. So first snow squall of the season possible tomorrow across Michigan, Indiana, maybe even into Ohio as we get into the latter portions of the day as well. So you get your temperature associated with this. Temperatures are going to be relatively just above freezing. Again, though, the temperatures are going to be lower at the higher levels, which is going to amount for that snow setup that we get with this. The dew points, again, are going to be in the 20s to 30s. Again, that's pretty moist for a cooler temperature setup like this. Look at the dew points back there at 3 degrees. But again, if they get close to 30, 31, 32 with those temperatures, that is still air that is saturated enough to bring snowfall. It's not nearly it's not a very high saturation, but the relative humidity levels are going to be high enough to get that precipitation to occur. But you can see a series of just bands of snow beginning to set up with this. It looks like the strongest band will be focused over the lake with that lake effect enhancement that's going to be occurring. If you go further into the evening, you see that those bands continue across much of Michigan. And you see a few cells still popping up across parts of Lake Michigan. Some of those could have some waterspouts attached to them. I think there will be the potential for some waterspouts and still a few pop-up rain showers and snow showers that could pack maybe even a little bit of lightning still with that warmer water that we have set up over Lake Michigan. And even also parts of Lake Erie and Lake Superior will be involved in this as well. Lake Huron, the Ontario area, will likely see some lake enhancement. Again, it's actually a very interesting setup for late October as we get into spooky season. So that's kind of the stuff that's going on. But you see that band of snow continuing into the evening hours into parts of Ohio. Ohio might even see some snow. Now, let's get to where we talk about accumulations, because that's probably the question. Is snow going to accumulate? Now, again, I don't think it's going to be much because the ground temperature is still relatively warm. But if you go to the snow accumulations, we're going to go to the winter weather graphic now. On the 10-to-1 ratio, you see snow accumulations at the lakeshore could actually get to 3 or 4 inches. I think those accumulations are probably going to be relatively between 1 to 3 inches, especially in those upper areas. Some areas may see a little bit more snow accumulation, but I think it's going to stay on the grassy surfaces. Pavement, probably still too warm, not going to enable that to really overtake the temperature of the ground. So the snow is not really going to accumulate as thick there, but I do think some places now near the lakeshore will get some good accumulations, and then maybe 1 to 2 inches in these areas that are shaded in different forms of blue. I know it says 5 inches. I do not expect that much snow. I think it's going to be relatively lower amounts. And then parts of Indiana, Ohio may see snow, but I don't think it's going to accumulate. Again, keep in mind that the ground temperatures are still going to be relatively warm with this setup. So again, I don't see much in the form of accumulation occurring with this. So not too much snow depth across much of the Great Lakes region. Not even look like it's going to stick. It's probably going to just stick to the western portions of the lakeshore, parts of Ontario, and then places with that winter storm potential across portions of the upper peninsula. So that's really what we're looking at. And on the back side of this, you can see the temperatures are going to drop. And temperatures on the morning on Wednesday are going to be in the 20s even in some spots, and everywhere is going to be around the freezing mark. Temperatures in the upper peninsula get down into the 20s and teens, and that's the air temperature. Keep in mind that is probably going to be a little bit breezy associated with this. If we pause it at hour 41 and we look at the wind chill and heat index graphics. Again, temperatures drop down into the 20s across much of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. So everywhere is going to be cold. That first batch of winter is going to make its way in. And NAM 3K, if you look at that as well, kind of agrees with the setup for the potential for a snow squall as we get into Tuesday afternoon, and then heavy bands of snow continuing across western portions of Michigan as we get into the afternoon. So I will be chasing this event. Now, you'll probably be surprised at me saying that, but I'm going to be chasing this event. I'm probably going to head out as this snow squall passes through. I'll drive through it, and then I'm going to head out to the lakeshore, maybe Hagar Beach, and keep track of the potential for waterspouts associated with these snow clusters that we'll be moving through. Now, what are we talking about in terms of the waterspout forecast? We'll look at it here. You can see, again, this is, if we fast forward it, this is as we get into Tuesday. Here is Tuesday at 2 p.m. You see that red? That is pretty much maxed out potential for waterspouts across southern lower Michigan. So that's kind of the real thing to watch out for, that high potential for waterspouts as we get into Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday evening. So there's some good potential for waterspouts. And then on Lake Erie, as we get into Wednesday morning, it looks like your chances of waterspouts are pretty high also as well. So looks like a widespread snow and waterspout event for the Great Lakes region with this first batch of winter that is making its way into the area. So make sure to subscribe. I'm going to be out snow chasing later on tomorrow afternoon, and then getting into that waterspout mode as we start to see those pop up across the Lake Michigan. Maybe catch a good sunset, despite the fact it's going to be bitter cold on the lakeshore. But that's just something to keep in mind. Maybe I'll head to a different beach because of the cold, but we are going to see what happens. So that's what's going on. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay warm. I'll see you all later.